Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here making a Christmas card, of course, and we are going to create layers. We're going to add ink to our layers, and we're going to use very soft tones, so kind of out of the norm of the traditional holiday colors. And I love it when we do that, and we're seeing it more and more. For this card, I'm choosing ivories, grays, some pinks, some greens, and of course silver. And we've got glitter going on. So we've got a lot going on for this card here. I'm going to use the sentiment, the Merry Christmas script clear stamp. It's got a beautiful font, and it was the perfect size just to sit in there. I'm going to use my clear ink to stamp that. And I used in the Christmas Poinsettia Flourish set that I'm using, there's a lot of flourishes, of course, and I placed those first so that I knew where I wanted my sentiment to go. I'm going to heat set this using silver embossing powder, and then once that ouch, just hit myself, sorry about that. Once that is heat set, we will then set that aside and work on our die cuts. Since I did use my heat tool for the pattern paper, I am going to use some double-sided tape. That does help to flatten your card back out because I always warp my paper. I'm impatient. I can't wait for my heat gun to heat up. Once that's set on my card base, now it's time to have fun with our die cuts. Now, when I die cut, I never really know how many I'm going to use, so I always die cut more. When I have extras left, I put them in a pot that I have, and if I need a card all of a sudden and I want to add some die cuts or anything, I have them right there. I'm using my Distress ink, inks and some blending tools. I'm going to be using Mowed Lawn, Warm Lipstick, and Aged Mahogany. So the Mowed Lawn is for the smallest die cut of the flower. For the middle part, I'm using Warm Lipstick. And then for the largest section that I'm using here, I'm using Aged Mahogany. So I'm going to have these three different variations of those colors. I'm going to make sure that the Aged Mahogany is placed onto the die cut coming from the outside into the center. For the other petals, the other two, I started in the center and went out to the edge. It's just going to give a different look and show those different colors, if that makes sense. So we don't always have to start in the center of our flowers when we add our colors. And if you only have a few dye inks, and if you have a lot of white cardstock, we can still do our die cutting and add the variegation of the colors to those die cuts. Whenever there is a floral of some sort with die cuts, I must curve it and bend and twist this paper. I think it provides a lot of life to your die cuts and can be done very easily. You can see here I'm using my paper creaser, the edge of it. You could use the edge of a butter knife. Make sure the sharp edge is not facing you. You could use a pen. You could use a pencil. Anything that's round that you can brush along the back. It'll curve them down. You can also use the rounded edge of a pen, or here I'm using a ball stylus, and I'm now just pushing into the center of each of these petals. And in no time, you get this beautiful curve that happens for each of your layers. Again, it just adds that little bit of dimension and that little bit of curviness. Now, whenever I put my die cuts together, the glue that I have found that is wonderful to use is by Beacon, and it's called Kid's Choice. And It comes in different forms. You want it in the tube. This is an extremely thick glue. This is the only thing I use this glue for when it comes to layering die cuts. The thickness of it adds this added dimension to your die cut layers. Once I have all of these layered up, and you can see as I'm putting them on top of the previous layer, I'm straddling them so that you can see all the layers. I'm going to push down with my stylus, and it just adds that other dimension. As that glue comes out from underneath, it creates a hard surface when it's dry, and these will not flatten out. I have done this many times, and it is amazing how structured they stay with that glue. I get mine from Amazon. Now all of these beautiful flourishes come in, and I'm just layering them, putting these down first. Then I'm going to play with the number of poinsettias that we're going to place onto our card base. And again, using that glue to make sure they are put in place. When I die cut, I love a lot of die cuts. So that's why I always die cut more. I love a full card. I tend to go overboard in die cutting, but I love the dimension and again, that texture that you can get on your card. These are just beautiful images, these beautiful flourishes, and they just add a lot of interest to the card. It's like a whimsical Christmas card. Don't get me wrong, I love the traditional. I also love the traditional vintage. But to create these whimsical Christmas cards are just beautiful. And again, using that same glue to set those flowers in place, I use the stylus again to push that down. I'm going to use some pearls for the centers of the poinsettias, and we're going to add some to the outside just to add a little bit more of a whimsical nature to our card. And that's it. I do hope that you enjoyed this. Again, step out of those boxes, play with different colors. You'll be amazed at what you will create when it comes to your holiday cards for this season. As always, the products that I used will be listed down below. Enjoy the art that you are creating. Have fun with it, and try different things. You never know what you might get. But always remember what's most important. Always be creative, guys, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Till then.